Now it's time to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers, and I have joining me here in the studio two public affairs analyst, Oladehinde, Ariyo. Well, I think I have got only you.
Well, okay. I was not coming on.
I'm not so sure, but I think it might likely join us.
Okay.
Before we end.
That's my show before
makes sense to say. It's very colorful.
Yeah, man.
And it looks more like it looks Ghanaian.
No,
Ghanaian kind of.
It's a Nigerian. Yeah.
Oh, Nigerian.
Yeah.
Nice. We do so many
looks more like
beautiful things
stuff.
in the country.
Yes.
Right, let's see what the newspapers are reporting this morning. First news is the first newspaper to be reviewed this morning. Chrisland sex video saga. Police begin investigations to ascertain identities of students in alleged Dubai rape visual. And all the writers read, school authorities deny conducting pregnancy test for student. Lagos government disappointed, shuts school. Punch newspaper, electoral violence is the kicker, and the headline reads, 1,149 Nigerians killed. INEC suffers 42 attacks, decries rising insecurity. 1,149 Nigerians killed. INEC suffers 42 attacks, decries rising insecurity. Nigerian Tribune is next. Afe Babalola to federal government. Suspend 2023 elections. Set up 6-month interim government. Wow. Afe Babalola to federal government. Suspend 2023 elections. Set up 6-month interim government. Leadership newspaper is next. Igbo presidency. Southeast leaders want consensus across party lines. Southeast leaders want consensus across party lines. Talking about Igbo presidency in the leadership newspaper. The next newspaper is the Nation newspaper. Senators, reps to court. Sustain Electoral Act 84, subsection 12. The writers read, lawmakers file grounds of appeal, ask for accelerated hearing. Daily Trust is next. Section 84, subsection 12. 53 commissioners, others resign in states as Buhari's ministers stay put. The writers, Ngige declares for presidency today. It's against the law to remain in office. Fage, and no big deal. That's according to Kiari. Daily Trust there. Next newspaper is Daily Times. $418 million Paris Club loan refund. Don't tamper with funds accruing to us. States one federal government. Don't tamper with funds accruing to us. States one federal government. I saw the picture of Governor Kaide Fayemi, speaking on behalf of the governors of other states. News Direct is next. $418 Paris Club refund. $418. I'm not sure that's a bit. $418 million Paris Club refund. Something is missing there. Any deduction will be illegal. Contempt of appeal. That's governors saying there. $418 million Paris Club loan refund. Any deduction will be legal. Contempt of appeal. Governors talking there. Blueprints is the next newspaper. Insecurity. Don't divide Nigeria. Presidency warns critics. Says wicked intentions against President Buhari will fail. Insecurity, according to Blueprints. Don't divide Nigeria. Presidency warns critics, says wicked intentions against President Buhari will fail. This Nigeria is next. Prolonged ASU strike. NLC hits federal government. It must honor agreement. Students of the poor badly affected. Prolonged ASU strike. NLC hits federal government. It must honor agreement. Students of the poor badly affected. Abuja Inquirer is next. School feeding. FCT bill climbs to 12.5 million naira daily. FCT bill climbs to 12.5 million naira daily. Captures for the 4,000 additional pupils. Vendors plan protest over huge debts. That's Abuja Inquirer there. National economy, rising cost of building materials, others unsettle Nigeria's housing target. The rising cost of building materials, others unsettle Nigeria's housing target. That's according to National Economy. And the last but not the least, Guardian newspaper. Investors want more slice of 13.76 trillion naira pension assets in stocks. Investors want more slice of 13.76 trillion naira pension assets in stocks. That's the Guardian newspaper. So let's begin with what the First News reported this morning. Quite, I'm fumbling for the adjective to describe it with, but I'll leave that to public affairs analyst who is in the studio with me. First News says, Chrisland sex video saga. Police begin investigations to ascertain identities of students in alleged Dubai rape visual. School authorities deny conducting pregnancy test for students. Lagos government disappointed Shorts School. There's a forth and back about whether the girl involved in this scandal is a 10-year-old or 13-year-old, but then the whole thing is just so horrific.
It's unfortunate. When I heard the story, and there was a ban, so to say, on the video, as if I knew that that would be the first thing we would discuss today. I had to request that somebody should send it to me, and nobody was going to send it to me until I stumbled on it on another platform. I couldn't watch it to the end. I mean, I'm a father to a girl child. And I was like, if it had happened to my daughter, how would I have handled it? But so many gaping holes were left. To start with, for her age, either 10 or 13, as long as she's not 18, if anybody should have non-consensual sexual intercourse with her, it's a defilement. So it is wrong to call it a rape. Even in law, rape will not hold, because what the law recognizes is defilement. So I would prefer people put that in perspective. Then number two, the mother's submission, I listened to her video, okay, was very different from the reality that we hit you watching the video. I hate to say this, but the truth is, that girl that I saw wasn't a first-timer. Okay, she exhibited a lot of experience and capacity too. Now, another level, I was shocked to see that while they were messing up in a whole environment like that, there were other boys around working and even chatting with them.
As if nothing
As if nothing unusual was happening. We never would have imagined a thing that would happen. Especially to children at that tender age. But it has happened. For me, if care is not taken, like the Dowell and other cases, this will just be another media trial, and nothing will get done. Nobody will get punished. And as appropriate, which should be the case. Now, in trying to lay blames, I will start from the parents of the girl. There are things you don't allow children to get into, especially in this information age, where they have unfettered access to the internet. And each time these things happen, I always remember my MBA thesis. I wrote on the murderous impact of technology, and I started from the toothpick to the nuclear energy. As good as they help humanity to make life better, they can kill and they can cause massive destruction, in some cases, irreparable damages. So, as it is, I will put some blames on the parents. I have reasons to, they didn't do their homework very well. Okay, then number two, the school authority, no matter what story they may want to say, they are also partially guilty. If I give my child to you to take care of, to train, I will not expect anything untoward to now happen to the child. Unfortunately, again, the handling of the case was also very shady and shoddy. No parent will accept that. And for me, all of these things, is a reflection of the evil that has pervaded our communities and the complete erosion of our value system.
We know that currently there are some schools that don't allow students to make use of their phones.
Absolutely.
Except they give them a dedicated
Even
tabs.
there's university in this country that do not allow undergraduates to bring in phones to the school.
Except for the dedicated tabs, which is actually there's a lot of measures that put on it just to ensure that this is what we wanted to use it for, and that's what we use it for. But some parents feel we've got the money, we've got the exposure, we've been westernized to some extent that we'll give our children these phones, let them enjoy it, let them use it, let them do the browsing with it, so to speak. What would you say in this regard? Is it okay for them? Because the world that we have now, using the phone, convergence of technology, you have your TV, you have your internet, you have your newspaper, you have everything, virtually everything you want to do in the facet of life, you have it there. So is it appropriate to have your
I will answer that question. It's a junction of confusion. I faced that when my daughter was growing and she was getting fond of asking me to buy her a phone. Daddy, buy me a phone. At a certain age, I bought her a phone with which she could only call or send a text message in case she's in distress and needed help.
Not the one that has internet facility.
No. I didn't give her that access. That's why I said it's a junction of confusion. You must be able to separate between need and desire. Okay? That's the mistake most parents make. And you'll be surprised that you will meet pupils of primary, secondary school carrying phones, very expensive phones. Let me not mention brand now. And you wonder, what are the parents trying to prove by buying such handsets, for their children? Not only that, so many phones have parental control and guides, but how many parents understand how to activate those control systems? So they just give them phones, and then it's like opening the world to them. Because when you have a phone that has internet capacity, you can do anything. Nobody guides you what to do and at what time. So it became an issue between me and my daughter, and I was insisting that, look, growing up, I didn't have all of these things around me. It didn't stop me from being a brilliant student. It didn't stop me from passing my exams.
And they will say, your dad, that's your time, your time has gone.
Unfortunately for them,
it's a new era.
They missed all those things that we enjoyed. All the moontime stories, the tales by the moonlight. So they miss those ones. But what can we do other than we won't open our eyes and allow them to get astray? So the element of control is always there. So at that time, she had access to the phone only on Saturday. Monday to Friday is with me and logged up. And of course, she doesn't have access to some media, some platforms. Okay, which for me, I meant for only adults. And then time in, time out. Our phone is not passworded. I open it, I read our messages, because in school they had different groups, science group, musical group, and all of that. So I will go through, and if I find anything offensive, I don't ask her, I just delete.
All right, we've got second discussants joining me in the studio. Seun, Awogbenle, thank you so much for being here, Public Affairs Analyst. Really appreciate.
My pleasure.
Well, I know that you caught up with the conversation about the Chrisland sex video saga, and I know for a fact, myself, I had this conversation with a colleague of mine this morning. On my phone, it's very difficult for you to search anything that has to do with sexually explicit content, because Google will filter it out. That's the setting that I give to my phone. So what would be your response to this? But these are underage kids. They're not supposed to be exposed to something like this.
Well, I think, like I said, it's a clear lack of parenting. It's a clear lack of effective parenting. But within the context of what we have, particularly the Chrisland saga, you're talking about a complete and abdication of responsibility on the part of the school. You've taken the student on what you describe as an excursion. So the sole responsibility, of the kids are completely within the purview of the school. And I think that for them not to have been able to completely manage the affairs of the children, it speaks a lot about, perhaps the quality of what you get. Because again, in universities, for example, you see this is why you see that university certificates, they write what in character and in learning, right? So it's not essentially about learning alone, it's also about character. So we're talking about character strength. So schools must actually dedicate a lot of time to also molding students and shaping them into the kind of into inspirational and leaders, you know. So the sole function of the school isn't just to impact or impart knowledge. You also have a function for molding them into the kind of character, enviable characters that you want to see in society.
We have a way of describing the up-and-coming generation. We say it's the jet age. And they learn very faster than most of us who, are aging very fast. And we've seen videos of some students who, in the school, maybe during their break time period, they propose to themselves, in a very what's that word? In a very flamboyant way. And then you imagine at these kids, adults, so the kind of exposures they have. So what do you think would need to be? Is it a function of just the school alone, or the parents alone, or the government itself in ensuring, for instance, this school has been shut down? Do you think that's the way to go?
No, I mean, for the school shutdown, I completely do not agree with the government. I think that you're having other kids pay for the sin of a few bad heads within the school. So I do not completely agree with the government. You have decided to launch an investigation into what has happened. So you allow the investigation to take its course. Why have other students pay for the sins of the few? So I do not completely agree with government on the decision to shut down the school. And I think that having to truncate the learning of other students is in fact what you call violating the rights of other kids within the school.
All right, let's change tack by looking at what the Nigeria Tribune reported this morning. Afe Babalola to the federal government. This is 2023 elections that we are looking forward to. He said, suspend 2023 elections, set up 6 months
because very soon
interim
I'm
government.
to declare.
I'm
contesting.
Okay, traditional chief, I think.
I won't let you know now because you want to charge me for campaigning on your platform.
Absolutely. All right, so what would you say to this? You might be looking at 6 month interim government in come 2023.
We'll take it up this way. What an elder will see seated, a young man will not see it when he climbs a palm tree. Baba, I give it to him. He's intelligent and cerebral. You can't deny that. And it's an accomplished personality. But the truth is this: his suggestion is anti-democratic, pure and simple. There is no country in the world that do not face challenges. We are facing challenges, starting from clueless leadership and all of that. But that is not the issue now. The issue is it by suspending election that we will now solve our problems? Okay? Because if we now for us to bring in the people it was suggesting, we must tinker with the constitution and create a space. Otherwise, it will be an illegality, which by going to court, anybody can overthrow the government, overturn the authority. It doesn't derive from the constitution. So for me, no, we have problems. Part of solving the problem is why we are here this morning. Every day, people are talking, ideas are flowing, we're making suggestions, and trying to show the way out of it. And I'm glad that across the later region of Nigeria, people are showing interest. At the end of the day, as they say, may the best win. But the point now is there is increased political awareness and consciousness now with the people. Why? We've been so dominant in the time past, and the way we are now, all eyes are open, all ears are open. People are talking across and exchanging information. Again, we are benefiting from the internet. What we didn't know about certain persons before, now we know. To that extent, Baba should just calm down. It's our world, okay?
Right.
If you allow us to play the game, and I assure him, before he goes to his game, he will see a better Nigeria. We cannot stop the election.
Right. So he has probably made this advice, against the backdrop of what his reading of the happenings in the country, and saying that no, I feel this is the best way for us to go, based on my own, worldview, looking at things that are happening in the country. But we already have a timetable. All Nigerians know that come certain date, this is when we are going to conduct this certain election, and then by now we should usher in a new dispensation. What would you say to this? Do you think it's okay if we want to go with what Baba said?
Well, I mean, so different people have different prognosis for the Nigerian problem. So people give, variant of ideas. But I think that the one that Ariyo has given in this instance is, is unusual, and I do not think that it is going to fly. You're also talking about a situation in which periodic elections is an important aspect of democracy, right? So, having the ability to organize elections from time to time. But he's saying that, suspend the election so that you can, usher in an interim government and have, so you can completely overhaul the constitution. Yeah. But I do also disagree sometimes, because a lot of people we've turned the constitution to the whipping, to metaphorical whipping boy this time, and continue to say, everything about Nigeria is because the constitution is flawed and all that. But I agree that, there might be, some aspect of the constitution that we do need to actually think out. But having to say that, install an interim government for complete overhaul of constitution, I do not agree, because the truth is that if you take this same Nigeria and you bring a constitution from heaven, and you give it to us in this same Nigeria, I am telling you, there is nothing that will be different from what you have. You continue to get the same results with this same Nigeria. You bring a constitution from it. So
it does
constitution
appear,
is not the problem.
You're a bit not optimistic about.
No, constitution is not the problem.
What exactly is the problem?
You have a complete failure of leadership, and that's the point. It is pure and simple. And leadership, they are the people. So you begin to talk about a process that actually produced the leaders, not the constitution.
Yeah, because the leaders are not from Mars.
Nigeria's constitution is too voluminous. You're talking about constitution, you do talk about you have an exhaustive and extensive constitution. A lot of things don't even have to be in the constitution.
Let us try to understand what the point you're driving at. The leaders that we have, the current crop of leaders that we have, they are from the same society that we are in.
Absolutely.
Look at what landlords are doing to the tenants. Some landlords are good, some are just different. Look at what someone who is a Daffer driver, for instance, that's where his own lordship is. Right. And the way they treat people who are supposedly their followers at that time.
Absolutely.
Imagine those people being the leader of today, the political leaders that we have in this country. It's still the same thing. In essence, the point I'm making is that it is exactly the way we are as followers that produce our leaders.
Absolutely.
So are you saying that with the best of constitutions in this world, Nigeria can't work? Is that the point you're making?
Because look at our procurement law, for example. It is one of the, most what you call rigid procurement laws that you have. But people still find a way to beat it. So my point is that you cannot, even if you bring, like I said, even if you bring a constitution from heaven, it's not going to solve the problem. That is never the solution to the problem. It's leadership. And like he has said, we have to encourage the brightest and the best of us to go into political leadership, to run for public office, and to get them into government. You need more people who have solutions, who have ideas to come into government.
All right.
And, again, 60 years, and I do not mean to exonerate, the failure that we have, but 60 years is also too short in the life of a country to completely dismiss it.
Well, you have another opinion.
I want to differ. I'm not going to accept that. You can as well say that 6 years of the life of a man is not enough for the man to record meaningful achievements. You and I know, when you were grown up, when I was grown up, we were told that we are tomorrow's leaders. Now I've crossed 62, yet I've not led anywhere. The mistake we all made was we seem to turn towards the leftist side of things, seeing things from the ideal point. I have over 3 decades of TV radio appearances behind me, and there is no problem anywhere in this world that I don't have a solution, a suggestion to. Yeah. Why haven't I gotten involved? And that's where I blame myself. That's where I know if my child will consider where were you? All these things were happening.
Absolutely.
All you were doing was going from studio to studio. In what
you call when I said we need to encourage the brightest and the best of us to go into government.
The mentality was politics was dirty, and for the dirty people. Unfortunately, for every me that refused to get involved.
Absolutely.
What we have done is to the backbenchers now. Okay, they have not been promoted to the position of power and authority.
Yes.
Whereby they decide our fate.
Right.
Now, when you do it, if I'm to put it in a mathematical formula, I will say that our worst 11 are ruling our best 11.
Absolutely.
So that is where we must continue the conversation, even beyond the TV studio.
I also want to add that you continuously hear American leaders say, they want to forge a more perfect union. And that is the understanding that the work of democracy is a continuum. It is never a destination. You will continue to have the work of nation building. It never ends, right? So where we are right now, we need a radical departure from the past, and that's what you would say. Not leave the constitution, taking no. We have this is our reality, and it can change. But how can it change? By bringing in the brightest and the best of us to come into government.
Before we go, 10 seconds. It's nation building, right? Not nation experimentation, whereby you are gambling as if you don't know what you are doing. Yeah. We some of us know what to do, and we've been articulating this at different platforms. But perhaps we cannot connect with those in authority and power. So, but if we have our lives in government, the story will be different.
Okay, so Blueprint is now saying something, and the presidency has spoken, as reported by Blueprint, saying insecurity. You spent, just like you said, and I picked it up, 3 decades on radio, in the mainstream media, and so on and so forth.
There's a studio in Lagos
the presidency has spoken, said, don't divide Nigeria. Presidency warns critics. So,
excuse me,
how would you describe
that? I will not accept that idea. I mean, that ID card. Yeah. It's not ours. Yeah. We are not the one dividing the country. Yeah. The nepotistic ideas being injected the governance, the parochial methods, the divisional ideas, things that do not unite us. We have never been this divided. Right. And who did that? Not me. It's the government. I agree. So the earlier they can realize that anomaly, the better than now passing the ball to us. I agree.
Right. So Oladehinde Ariyo believes that this is passing the buck, because for you to say wicked intentions against President Buhari will fail, and saying that on insecurity matters, analyzing insecurity issues, you're saying don't divide Nigeria. So we're warning you, critics.
Then I'll put it back to the president. There is an ability to reign on the complete failure of security. Yeah. It's the wicked intention this time, because he has failed to protect the nation. I mean, security.
He has tried as best possible, but then we are yet to see the results.
He has a moral burden that if you cannot protect the people and provide their welfare, then
all right. So you disagreed. You both disagreed, but then you were driving at the point.
No, my point is that the constitution is clear that security and the welfare of the Nigerian people shall be the primary and sole responsibility of government. So it means that by constitutional assessment, the failure of any government to actually provide, or deliver on these 2 mandates, you have clearly failed, even by constitutional mandate. So I do think that any government that is unable to effectively secure its people, secure their land, secure their borders, and then secure the people themselves, their properties, then you have no business with governance. And that is what we've said over and over again.
Do you think the protection of lives and property is exclusive prerogative of those in power?
Absolutely.
Looking at the fact that some of there's been allegations, against people who are residents of the places where we have bandits and terrorists who are traversing, and the conspiracy of silence without raising the alarm, without calling the right people to come fight them.
No, there's nothing like conspiracy.
And you subject yourself to the authority.
There are things that people would never be able to do for themselves. Security is one of those things, and that's why it's the sole function of government. Because of this, you have seen Nigerians, they provide water, provide different things for themselves. You are asking them to still provide their electricity. Then what is the role of government in all of this? My point is that even the constitution admits it. Those two, security and welfare. And when you talk about welfare, you're talking about education, health, provision of, human capital development, essentially. So the constitution even believes that at the minimum, what should be the bare minimum at least? You should be able to protect the people. So when you cannot do it, you have no business, saying you are the leadership. Well, you have no business even earning a salary on behalf of the people. Then what are you doing?
Wicked intentions against President Buhari will fail. Oladehinde Ariyo. That sounds more like a prayer.
Well, no, it's a prophecy, not a prayer. The point we must realize is this: I'm not an opposition to the government. Neither am I a critic. I'm a partner in governance, because I've told you before, nobody is more Nigerian than me and you. We are joint and equal stakeholders. But I wasn't the one that promised to put naira and dollar at par. I wasn't the one that promised to build a refinery annually. I wasn't the one that promised to leave Nigerians out of poverty. I can go on, and I'm not the one who has been issuing proper invoice statements after each bombing and disasters in Nigeria. I am not the one who is being paid and is enjoying office perquisites without delivering value, okay? And I'm not the one who has failed to build standard or world-class hospitals, maybe across the zones now, and who still goes abroad for medical treatment. So people identify anyone that falls in that bracket, and then you have seen the person dividing Nigeria.
Well, Seun Awogbenle, Daily Times, News Direct, you know, they are unanimous in their reportage this morning, saying, for Daily Times, for instance, saying $418 million Paris Club loan refund. Don't tamper with funds accruing to us. State government warning the federal government there.
Well, I mean, I think that the state governments have taken federal government to court on this issue. It's something that's it's been a back and forth, particularly the Attorney General of the Federation and, you know, the state government. And I think that this is, I mean, when you say, you know, the other time I admitted that there are some certain things that we do need to think about in the Constitution. But it's going to be, you know, it's gradual. These are some of the things, right? It is important to understand that the states, I mean, the states and the government, and the federal government and the center at this time, they have you know, what you call co or joint mandates. No federal government is not bigger than the states. You know, as we have been made to see in this case, where you say, oh, national is bigger than the subnational. Both the national and the subnational have equal authority. Now, you might say that some of the things that the national government can actually legislate on might be, I mean, you might have, you know, some items that are, you know, exclusive to the national government or the central government, as in this case. But it is not that you are going to say, oh, the federal government. So in trying to saying that federal government or, you know, central government shouldn't tamper, it shouldn't even have to happen. What exclusively belongs to the state should go to the state. Naturally. And what exclusively belongs to the federal government. And that's why we are saying that, you know, let the, I mean, our government should reflect our federalism. But don't also forget there are variants of federalism in different parts of the world. And if we're reflecting in reflecting the true spirit of federalism, it is essentially that you should not have a you shouldn't have a federalism where state government has to go to Abuja every time to have a meeting and say, okay, this is what we're getting. So they should never have to be at the mercy of the federal government. And we're saying just take some of these items from the exclusive list and bring them to the concurrent list and allow state governments to also have the ability to legislate on these things, including revenue and some of their functions. Particularly, we're talking about security. So you have more items on the exclusive list, and which actually makes it even overwhelming for the federal government. So we're saying bring some of these items down to the concurrent list and allow state governments to also be able to legislate on it. But we shouldn't even have a situation where state governments would have to cry out and say, please come and help us. So federal government wants to cheat us in this situation. It's very ridiculous and laughable.
News Direct, you know, is saying the same thing. $480 million Paris Club loan refund. Any deduction will be illegal. Contempt of appeal. The governor's, you know, warning that.
You know, there's a law called karma, which I call the law of sowing and reaping. What federal government is doing to the states is what the states are doing to the local government. Okay?
Have you heard that local government is not exactly a third tier of government?
Well, I've not heard that.
Say it's not in the Constitution. That what we know, federalism is between the federal government and the state.
But there was
and then the state,
but that's not true. I just said something.
Take care of the local government.
I just said something. No. I just said something different. Go and study federalism in different parts of the world. Federalism have variants, right? So in different parts of the world, federal in some countries you find 2 tiers. In some countries you find 3 tiers. In Nigeria it is 3 tiers, and we have to respect it.
That is the narration and that we're getting.
Let me remind you. It was the same president of Nigeria that accused the states of stifling local governments. If they have no constitutional standing, I don't think he will have made that reference. One, number two, there have been times when they said they passed some laws granting them autonomy.
Yeah.
But autonomy only on paper, not in spirit. And that's why there was an interview I watched last week when the council chairman was saying that he signed for 100 million naira, whereas he was giving 7 million naira. We shouldn't be having these cases. It's like when you are playing football. If you fail to deliver value within the approximate 90 minutes, they now give you extra time. Okay, and then you start struggling. You know, playing dirty games, bringing in strong arm tactics. That is what we are experiencing, which again goes to my position. We cannot wholesale through away our constitution, but some parts of it needs to be tinkered with. The federal government, as it is prescribed in that booklet, is too powerful and is unnecessarily overbearing, and that must let you know why we are facing some of the things we are facing now.
Can I quickly take
less than a minute?
I want to quickly take us back to website from. I say, even if you bring a constitution from heaven, look at it. I mean, you have a constitution that says state government should respect to the local government, the autonomy. But you did. Even they've given them autonomy over and over again. Have you seen the state government? And that's what the constitution says. So I am saying that constitution is never the problem. It is the people.
Right. All the same, we know that the reason is for us to keep talking about this issue so that we'll all rally at a point and agree on certain things that will help this country.
Middle of the road position.
In the what?
Middle of the road position.
Right, but then
where all interests will be taken care of adequately,
and then we arrive at our Eldorado.
Exactly.
So they say.
We don't have to fight at all.
Public affairs analyst Oladehinde Ariyo and Seun Awogbenle. Thank you very kindly, gentlemen, for your keenness of insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.